Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Black Adam. So this is The Rock's kind of big entry into the DC, whatever it is. I'm not sure what we're calling it at this point, but it's his entry into the DC and as the villain of Shazam, but it doesn't mention Shazam at all. You know, there's a lot of hype around this. I know Warner Brothers has a lot on the line with this one, and it seems like all of cinema is resting on the success of Black Adam or something. You know, when I was watching it, I was thinking how comfy I was in my seat and how nice it was to sit in this comfy seat and how comfortable I was. I was like, this is pleasant. I'm watching this nice movie. I'm very comfy. Like, I felt very serene in my seat, enjoying this visual entertainment. And I was like, I was fine with it while I was watching it. And the more I read about it and think about it and all those things, the worse I think about this movie and realize how it has no real follow through on a lot of ideas that honestly are very interesting and could be actually make this a really interesting movie and make it a really interesting movie for The Rock and for superhero movies. But unfortunately, we don't get that at all. We get a lot of like starts, but not a lot of finishes and not a lot of points to any of it. And that's sort of, I think, kind of like problem with The Rock as a movie star when he's running things. I know he gets various script approvals, like he doesn't die in his movies. You don't get too bummed out during a Rock movie, unfortunately. Things like that, which this movie reeks of, and like a movie that could mean something and unfortunately doesn't mean jack shit. And I think that is the thing with the Rock movies, is like could be something more, but he almost denies them, and this is one of the worst examples of that. It's about basically this guy named Teth Adam who 5,000 years ago or 2,000 years BC, he was a boy and all this stuff, and he became like this legendary hero and was given the Shazam powers and fought off these people who had enslaved this mythical area, I believe, Karak. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, it's a mythical land, but he basically frees it and then disappears in the fight, and now he's back because this woman who's an archaeologist tries to make sure the kind of evil crown thing, death crown or Satan's crown, something like that, is not taken by these bad guys called the Intergang, which are a real thing from DC. None of that is explained within this film at all, unfortunately. They've sort of just taken over this town for the past 10 years, or for this country. They want to get this crown, and this archaeologist mother tries to find the crown before they can, and when they come after her while she's trying to find this crown, she unleashes Teth Adam, or Black Adam basically, and he comes and kind of attacks a bunch of stuff, and he doesn't really get the customs and what's going on because it's 5,000 years ago, and understanding who he is and how he kills people. And now that this Middle Eastern country has their own superhero, which could be sort of like a Cool Red Sun scenario, but don't worry, they don't get into that. That's too interesting for this movie. The Justice Society with Dr. Fate and Hawkman and Tornado Lady and Atom Smasher come to basically stop him because it could destabilize the world. And although, again, that sounds like something that could be interesting to look into global politics, they don't worry. Then he fights them and fights a Satan person, and yeah. The best that this movie, I think, does is it plays a very basic superhero movie. The worst of what it does is try to deal with the Middle East somehow and not really go into it whatsoever, which makes you question, why do that? Why not have it set somewhere else, since you want that setting and want to sort of semi-acknowledge it but not use it? Feels as like the phoniest Hollywood bullshit you can imagine. I mean, in some ways, like, they do get things that I think people are being a little too mean. Like, they're saying, like, oh, they always make people wait in lines, and that is something like bureaucracy does to people. Makes them wait forever and waste their time, and like, you know, they can't get home to their families as quickly and stuff like that. So, like, but that is not what's going on in the Middle East. And it's kind of like such an extreme to what they're doing. In addition, I think The Rock, fame-wise, can lead a movie, but is not good at choosing lead parts as much as he is with an ensemble. Like, I love him in Jumanji, I've only seen the first one. I love him in the Fast and Furious movies, but anytime it's like just him, it's like San Andreas and Skyscraper. Was it called Skyscraper? I am not even sure. Rampage. And like, do we even think about those movies when we think about him? Like, I feel like so much of his filmography is not good, but it's also because he doesn't really understand what makes him a draw, which is him being part of an ensemble. Like, he'd be good in a superhero team-up movie. And in this, it also feels like, with Black Adam, is like, he's not funny. It's like he doesn't really get humor because there wasn't humor 5,000 years ago or something. And none of that really works. It just comes off as a movie that was close to being something, and it has a good director, the director of The Shallows and Nonstop, which are two movies. I liked his Liam Neeson stuff. I like this director, Jerome Collet-serra, I think. He was really good at making kind of like B action stuff, like very good. He like definitely got what he was doing, sort of in a self-aware way. And as soon as he's done these like big blockbuster things, it feels like he's like really lost what made him interesting filmography-wise. And you get that a lot in Black Adam. Like, you see a lot of like potential of like, oh, this could be fun, and he never really gets into it. It's like, I don't think he's a major... I get like why a studio would want him, because he's very much like a good studio director, and they're like, oh, we want the studio director to make studio movie. It's like, that's totally natural progression. I get that. But career-wise, but like artistically, he's just not as interesting as he was when he was doing like Liam Neeson movies. He's not playing up the camp or playing with, formula. He's more of a genre guy, I think, at his best when you look at those things, other than The Shallows, which was really good. Some of it is just The Rock being so kind of dour, and it's like, I feel like he just thinks all of this bells and whistles will make us fall in love with Black Adam. You don't, and it's also, I don't get like why Shazam isn't acknowledged in this whatsoever. Like, Diamond Huntshoe's in this, he was in Shazam, the Shazam powers and stuff, but they never really like have Shazam show up. Or there's a kid who's really into superheroes who has like every superhero all over his room, like the DC ones in this DC universe, and he doesn't bring up Shazam. Nobody brings up to Black Adam Shazam at all, which is super weird because he's a Shazam character. This is just what this movie kind of is basically like The Rock wanted to play Black Adam. This is like a movie star wants to be a superhero. It's not a superhero who's looking for an actor to lead it, which is kind of what we do now, basically. This is very different from what we do now superhero wise. This doesn't make me like want to go back to it. I sort of like stuff with like Atom Smasher and the Justice Society, sort of, but like, I never got fully into them. I don't think they worked fully as a team. Like, you didn't really get into them. They're sort of like Pierce Brosnan. There's certain things where like this movie's acting like I really care about Dr. Fate, but like I don't care about Dr. Fate. Never really worked that much. It just comes off as like a movie that, it doesn't explain a lot. I think that's the other thing. It's like, it doesn't want to get into issues. It doesn't want to explain the Justice Society. It doesn't want to explain Inner Gang. It doesn't want to explain any of that. Just like, you know what this is. And like, no, I don't. And like, what is it in these movies? What is it in the DC, whatever expanded, collected, cinematic universe thing? It just doesn't. So if you watch this film and like, were really comfy in your seat like I was, you're just like, this is nice. I'm having a nice time. And if you just look at it that way, it's fine. And maybe that's what The Rock wants. Maybe The Rock's like, hey, you have a long day at work, you open a beer and you watch a movie with The Rock. And hopefully it would be faster or something. No. And like, if that's what he's trying to do, then fine. I guess he did that with this. When I think about it, it's like, I think these movies need to have more staying power. To really hit, and it feels like he didn't really think of that. He just thought of making pleasant blockbuster entertainment, and I can't think of anything more boring than what this movie is. It did sort of make me think they set up Black Adam to be more interesting in later films, and I'm a little curious about what a Black Adam 2 would look like, assuming that happens. I think it will probably. But as a movie itself, this just feels like sort of a little too routine. I kind of felt more okay with that when I was watching it, but the more I think about it, it just doesn't stand out enough. And it's sort of milquetoast in that way, because it's not as bad as like Thor Love and Thunder it's not as interesting and different as like, you know, Doctor Strange or something, or Doctor Strange 2, I mean. It just kind of is just like, oh, that was a superhero movie. But it's the thing about superhero movies is you're supposed to like care about that actor playing them, like that portrayal, how funny it was, the time you laughed with your friend at it. And all I can think of with this is how comfy I was. And, you know, that was very nice and I enjoyed that. And I wasn't thinking about like, oh yeah, remember when Black Adam did that? The difference between this and like Shazam is I remember things from Shazam. I think Shazam was a great movie. There's a lot of moments that when I bring up Shazam, I think if you've seen Shazam, you're going to remember and be like, oh my God, that hit me so hard, or that was so beautiful, it was so wonderful. And this just is the opposite, where it's not trying to connect to you, it's just being pleasant. And I guess if you need a warm blanket and, you know, you've had a long weekend and you're not feeling well, or it's just been rough, then that's what this is. But I don't think it would be anything more. And I'm disappointed in everybody involved, because it feels like the potential to make this so much more was there. It just like continually just didn't do it. And like when you really think about it, I think it was a little frustrating when I was watching it, because they acknowledge it but don't do anything with it, even though I was like pleasant and comfy. But then when I thought about it later, like it annoyed me more and more. And I think like that's not something this movie should be doing. It just didn't really all come together, and it just felt like a lot of creative forces just trying to make this like enjoyable enough. And I guess it's enjoyable enough, but it's enjoyable enough in a way to be completely irrelevant in the conversation of very much of anything other than a studio's bottom line. And I think that makes Black Adam kind of a complete artistic failure for being anything other than me watching it and being sort of comfy while I enjoyed it and stuff. So if you have seen Black Adam and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.